We continue now at the top of Daf Samach Aleph Meseches Bava Kamma. This is Bava Kamma Daf 60a. On the previous summit, Rabbi Yochanan said that a person is only responsible if he gives to a chereshot of a cut in the fire, if he gives silta shraga, if he gives him again the thin wood and the candle. That's what he gives to the chereshot of a cut, and only in that case is the person who gave it over responsible. Dahu v'adai ma'isa didei garmu, because in that case certainly it's really his actions that have caused the damage. Rashi says silta eitzim dakim. Again, he's giving thin wood and the candle to the chereshot of a katan, then he's going to be responsible. And the Gemara continues at the two dots. The Mishnah said, Shilach biyad pikeach ha-pikeach chayev v'chulu. If he sends it in the hands of an intelligent person, meaning the fire, then that intelligent person who causes the fire, who takes the flame, is going to be responsible. And then the Mishnah went on to say that if somebody fans the flames, that person who fans the flames is going to be responsible for the damage. And the Gemara says, Amar Rav Nachman bar Yitzchak, Rav Nachman bar Yitzchak says, Man detani liba lo mishtavish, or man detani niba lo mishtavish. The one who learns the word in the Mishnah as liba, which means to fan the flames, that's not a mistake. And the one who has the text of the Mishnah as niba, which means to blow the flames, that's also not a mistake. They would both fit in the context of the Mishnah. Man detani liba lo mishtavish. The one who teaches it as liba is not making a mistake. Tichsiv, like it's written in the pasuk, bela bas eish, it's talking about the flame of the fire. Uman detani niba lo mishtavish, and the one who says the word niba is in the Mishnah is also not in error. Tichsiv, because it's written in the pasuk, borei nivsuf asayim. He creates the fruits of the lips. What it means over here is like the breath that comes out of the person's mouth. The idea again of blowing the fire. And the Gemara continues at the two dots. The Mishnah said, Libsa haruach kulan patur, and if the wind fans the flame, so then they are all exempt. It's considered that it's happening because of the wind. And the Gemara says, Tanu Rabbanan, the rabbis taught, Liba v'libsa haruach. Let's say the person himself fans the flames, but also the wind fans the flames. Im yesh b'libuya kadela labos. If what he's doing is enough to fan the flames and cause the damage, chayiv, so then he's chayiv, then he's responsible. V'im la, but if not pater, then he's pater. And the Gemara asks, Amai, why is that the case? Lahavik is zora v'ruach mesayato. It should be the same thing as winnowing on Shabbos when the wind is assisting him in the winnowing. Meaning to say, in a situation where when he's fanning the flames alone, it's not sufficient, but the wind helps him out, we're saying pater. Why is he pater in that case? On Shabbos, a person is responsible for essentially the same thing when he's winnowing in the field. If the wind is assisting him, of course, which is what generally happens, he is chayiv on Shabbos for that malacha. And the Gemara says, Amar Abai says, Hacha b'may askinan. Here, what are we dealing with? Kagon shaliba mitzarechad v'libso haruach mitzarach. The case is that he's actually fanning it in one direction, but the wind is fanning it in the other direction, and it's clear, therefore, that everything is happening because of the wind, because it's going in the direction that the wind is fanning the flames. And the Gemara continues with another answer. Rav Amar Rava says, Kagon shaliba baruach mitsuya. The case is that he's fanning it and there's a normal wind and nothing's happening. V'libso haruach baruach she'ena mitsuya. But then the wind comes along, an uncommonly strong wind, something that he could not anticipate, and it causes the fire to cause damage. In that case, the person is not responsible because he could not have anticipated the ruach she'ena mitsuya. Rabbi Zera says, Kagon de tzamra tzimure. The case is tzamra tzimure, as Rashi says, tzamra tzimure loshen Ishta tzmirsa chamimus, meaning to say he just warms the fire, but he's not really blowing it in any direction. He's not causing it to move. Kolomar shalo nafach mamish. It means he didn't really blow it. Ela b'neshima kaderach hamechamim b'neshimas was yadav. He's blowing the same way a person warms up his hands when he blows into his hands. The ein zel liboy klal, that's not even called fanning the flames, and that's why, according to Rav Zera, that's why he's pater in that situation. Rav Ashi says, Ki amrinon zora v'ruach mesayata. When do we say that if a person is winnowing and the wind is helping, that the person is chayiv? Hanimili linyan Shabbos. That's only true when it comes to Hilchas Shabbos, the Melechas Machshavas Asra Torah, because there the Torah says that Melech is prohibited if it's Melechas Machshavas, meaning you have a certain objective and you accomplish that objective, so then you're responsible in terms of Hilchas Shabbos, but that's only by Hilchas Shabbos. Avalacha, but over here when we're talking about damages, Grama Bialmu, it's just an indirect damage. He's just causing it to happen indirectly. Ugrama bin Izak and Pater, and Grama by damages, the person is Pater. Rashi says Melechas Machshavas Niskaima Machshavto. It means what he was thinking, his objective is actually fulfilled. The Nichale Baruch Mesayato, he wanted the wind to assist him in that case, and that's why on Shabbos he is chayiv. And the Gemara continues with the Mishnah, Hasholeach es habe'er, if somebody sends forth a fire, ve'achla eitzim, o avonim, o offer, and it consumes wood, or stones, or earth, chayiv, he's going to be chayiv. The point is he's chayiv even for the damage to the field itself. Shenemar, as it says in the pasuk, Hiseitze eish u'matza kotzim, if the fire goes out and it finds thorns, v'nechal godish, and then it consumes the grain that is stacked, o hakama, or the standing grain, o hasada, or the field, shalim yishalim hamaver es habe'era. The person should surely pay the person who caused the fire. And the Gemara says, Amar Rava says, Lama li dekasav rachmana kotsim gadish kama v'sada. Why does the pasuk have to write the thorns and the stacked grain and the standing grain in the field? And the Gemara says, Srichi, all of those terms in the pasuk are necessary when it comes to damage from a fire. Because of Rachmana Kotzim, because if the pasuk only wrote thorns, Hava Amina Kotzim Hu Dechayev Rachmana Misham Deshchiach Eish Gabayu. So I would have thought that when it comes to thorns, the Torah says the person is chayiv because it's normal for fire to light on thorns. Or shchiach, the pasha, it's something that's common. There's negligence there. The person is responsible. Aval gadish, but when it comes to the stack of grain, the lo shchiach eish gabayu, it's not common for fire to be there. But lo shchiach, the pasha, it's not common that there's negligence to that extent. So I would say that maybe the person is not responsible. V'kas of Rachmana Gadish, and if the pasuk only wrote Gadish, the stacked grain, Hava Amina Gadish Chayiv Rachmana Misham Dehefsid Merubu, I would have thought that when it comes to the stack of grain, the Torah says a person is Chayiv because it's a large loss of money. Aval Kotzim, but when it comes to the thorns, Dehefsid Muad, it's a small loss of money. Eimelo, I would say there's no responsibility. And the Gemara says, Kamma Lamali, why does it have to talk about Kamma, the standing grain? And the Gemara says to that, Ma Kamma Begolid, because just like standing grain is something that's out in the open, Af Kol Begolid, so too, when it comes to damages of Eish, a fire, it only is things that are out in the open, but things that are tummun, things that are concealed, there is no responsibility when it comes to Eish, as we have said previously in the Mesechet. Well, Rabbi Yehuda de Mechayiv an Nizkei Tamun Beish, but what about according to Rabbi Yehuda, who says that you are Chayiv, you're obligated to pay for damages, even of concealed things when it comes to fire? Kamma Lamali, so what do we do with the word Kamma according to Rabbi Yehuda? And the Gemara says to that, L'Rabos Kol Balei Koma, it comes to include Kol Balei Koma, all things that stand upright. And Rashi explains, Kol Balei Koma, all things that stand upright, meaning Af Balei Chayim, meaning even creatures, V'ilanos, and trees. It includes even those in the obligation to pay for damages. And the Gemara continues, V'Rabbanan, and what about according to the Rabbanan, L'Rabos Kol Balei Koma Menolahu, from where do they know to include all things that are standing upright? The Gemara says, Nafkaluhu me O HaKama, they learn it from O HaKama, that extra word O comes to include Kol Balei Koma. Rabbi Yehuda responds to that, O mi boy le l'chalik, the word O is needed to divide and say that the fire doesn't have to destroy all of these things to be responsible, rather any one of these things, or this or that, any one of these things, the person is responsible. For Rabbanan l'chalik minalu, and according to Rabbanan, how do they know l'chalik? How do they know that it's for any one of the things on the list and not for all of them only? And the Gemara says to that, Nafkaluhu me O Hasada, they learn it from the other O in the pasuk. It says O Hasada. For Rabbi Yehuda, but Rabbi Yehuda says to that, I did the Kasav Rachmana O HaKama, since the pasuk already wrote O HaKama, or the standing grain, Kasav O Hasada, we use the same language by the field and say or the field. And the Gemara continues, Sada Lamali, why does it say the word field in the pasuk? Lasuye licha niro v'sichsecha avanav. It's to include if the fire licks the plowed areas of the earth and it scorches the stones, meaning the field itself, you're responsible for as well. But the Gemara continues, V'lichtov rachmana sada v'lo boyhanach, let the Torah just write about the field and don't write anything else. If we know that you're responsible for the damage to the field and the field is not completely destroyed, it's only damaged partially, you're responsible for that, certainly you would be responsible for everything else. And the Gemara says to that, Sricha, it is necessary to write the other items as well. The Yikasav Rachmana Sada, because if the pasuk only wrote the word Sada, it only wrote the word field, Hava Amina Masha B'Sada, I might have misinterpreted the word Sada to mean the items that are in the field. I wouldn't have realized we're talking about the earth itself. Masha B'Sada in Midi Achrina Lo, that which is in the field, yes, you are responsible to pay for, but other items you are not responsible, meaning the field itself, you're not responsible. So Kamash Malan, by writing the other items in the pasuk, now we know that field means the field itself. And Rashi explains, Nero is Charisha Shalon Nizra. Nero refers to the plowed areas of the field that weren't yet planted, and Sichsuch Shaykh Ba'avanim. The word Sichsuch is the kind of word that you would use to indicate damage by stones. Lechicha B'shar Devarim, you use the word Lechicha by other things besides stones. Hava Amina Masha B'Sada. Again, I might have thought if it only wrote Sada, we're talking about the items in the Sada, meaning Tvua Kamar, meaning we're talking about the crops. That's what the pasuk is talking about. V'lo karka mamish. We're not talking about the land itself. You're not responsible for that. That's what I might have thought. Lachi kasav kama behedya. That's why it writes the word kama explicitly. The hashda is ravi sada legufish al karka. Now it's clear that the word sada is referring to the land itself. And the Gemara continues, Amar Rav Shmuel bar Nachmani, Amar Rav Yonasan. Rav Shmuel bar Nachmani says that Rav Yonasan says, Ein puranus ba'al olam, punishment does not come to the world, ela bizman sharashayim ba'olam, only at a time when there are wicked people in the world. But nevertheless, the punishment begins only with the tzaddikim at first. Shenemar, as it says in the pasuk, Kiseitze eishu matzah kotzim, it says that the fire goes out and finds the thorns. We understand that to mean, Eimasai eish yotza, when will the fire go out? When will there be this punishment, this damage? Bizman shakot, kotzim mitzuyin la. When there are kotzim, when there are thorns around, meaning when there are rishoyim, when there are wicked people around. But the punishment actually only begins with the tzaddikim first. Shenemar, as it says, v'nechal gadish. It says v'nechal gadish, as the Gemara now notes. V'achal gadish lo nemar. It doesn't say v'achal gadish, which would sound like it's first the thorns get consumed, and then the gadish, then the stack of grain. Ela v'nechal gadish. It says v'nechal gadish, and that implies shenechal gadish kavar, that the stacked grain was already consumed. That was actually consumed first. You see that the Puranas begins with the tzaddikim. And the Gemara continues at the two dots. Tani Rav Yosef taught, "My dechsiv." What does it mean when it's written in the pasuk? V'atem lo seitzu ish mi pesach beiso ad boker. It says you shouldn't leave your house until the morning. This is talking about makas bechoros, the plague of the firstborn in Mitzrayim. Kevon shanitan rishos lamashchis. Once permission is given to the destroyer to destroy, eino mavchin bein tzadikim l'rashayim. It doesn't make a distinction between the righteous and the wicked, and that's why nobody could leave their homes. V'lood, and not only that, el shemaschil minat tzadikim tchil. It actually begins. The punishment begins with the tzaddikim first. Shenemar, as it says in the pasuk, v'chrati mimech tzaddik v'rasha. It says that I'm going to destroy from you, cut off from you the tzaddik and the rasha. You see, the tzaddik is first. And the Gemara continues, Bachi Rav Yosef cried about this, Kuli hai nami la'ayin dom. Are these tzaddikim, are they like nothing? Are they worthless? As Rashi explains, Kuli hai nami la'ayin domin, kilomar lehevel chashudim ha-tzaddikim shekodim le'puranas. Are the tzaddikim considered like nothing, that they're the first ones to be punished? Amar le Abayas said back to him, he said back to Rav Yosef, Tivusahu l'gabayo. It's actually something good for the tzaddikim. Because it's written, Ki mipnei hara nesaf ha-tzaddik. It's because of the evil that the tzaddik is gathered in, that the tzaddik dies. As Rashi says, Tivusahu shelo yiru bara, means to say that the tzaddikim, they shouldn't see the evil that is going to come. Or I see the love that's going to come in the future, Dechsiv, as it's written in the pasuk. And the Gemara continues, Amar Rav Yehuda, Amar Rav. Rav Yehuda says that Rav says, and we will continue with this discussion in the next video on Daf Samech Amud Beis.